Welcome, today's story is full of drama. Like and subscribe to stay updated. Let's get started.
I was caught off guard. Rangers were supposed to be invincible. At least that's what the first sergeant had drilled into us during training. Yet, there I was, with a bullet lodged near my heart and a shard of shrapnel buried in my backside. Not exactly the heroic ticket home I had imagined. Even while the nurse was prepping me for surgery, I had instinctively shielded her from incoming fire. Unfortunately, that effort left me with an extra souvenir from the battlefield. 2 Purple Hearts and a Bronze Star hardly felt like a fair trade for leaving my brothers behind to face the fight without me. But orders were orders. I was going home. I spent 5 weeks in a veterans hospice recovering from multiple surgeries. The good news, other than some scars, I was going to be fine. Better yet, I made corporal as soon as I got stateside. The pay bump was nice, and so were the added perks. In the Rangers, a corporal had a level of respect equivalent to a brigadier general in other branches. No exaggeration. At 22, I was a corporal with combat experience, a handful of medals, and a new outlook on life. It was time for the next chapter. Finding the right person to share my life with. But I wasn't naive. I knew I needed an education and a stable job before even thinking about settling down. The GI Bill would cover school, but I still needed work. With my military service wrapping up in 60 days, I called my friend Ethan Carter. Ethan owned the Blue Haven, a laid-back bar with aspirations of being a high-class bistro. Lawyers, doctors, business professionals, and a few cops mixed in with everyday folks, exchanging stories over drinks. Most people don't realize that a true bartender is more than just someone who pours drinks. They're a friend, a counselor, a philosopher, and sometimes even a protector. Bartenders play a vital role in society. And thanks to Ethan, I stepped into that world as a full-fledged professional. For the next 4 years, I balanced work and school. I took online courses and earned a BA in philosophy and an MS in general psychology, all courtesy of Uncle Sam. I had no plans to teach or become a psychologist. My goal was simple: to elevate my skills and value as a bartender. And in time, it did just that. I was 26. I was in great shape physically, once a Ranger, always a Ranger. I was pulling down $55K annually when tips were added in, and I owned my own home. But I was still missing the final piece in the fabric of my life: a woman. That final piece came at me at the end of a particularly grueling shift on one Friday evening. "Luke," said the voice to my left. "Yes?" Then I looked, and a big smile creased my features. "Veronica? How long has it been?" I asked. "Well, I just needed to be saying something since high school, big boy." "And you really are a big boy, aren't you?" she said. "I heard you joined the Navy or something after high school." At 59 and 120, I wasn't actually all that big, but she could see that, so I didn't mind the opening. "The Army." "Huh? Oh yes, the Army," she said. "But you aren't with the Army now, are you?" "No, not for a few years now," I said. "Been working here for some 4 years plus." "Well, you sure look good," she said. She was grinning from ear to ear. Can I get you something?" I said. "White wine," she said. I moved down the bar to get the wine, poured it, and returned. I set it down in front of her and wiped the bar to her left. "Well, it's a habit all we barkeeps have." "So, you married?" she asked, smirking. "No. Haven't met the right girl, I guess," I said. "Really? I would have thought that a handsome fellow like you would have been taken early on," she said, still smirking. I praised her. She was nice-looking, not runway gorgeous, but interesting. Maybe 55 and 120. Her red hair flowed around her shoulders, daring men not to stare. She had freckles that enhanced her pale complexion, and a quick way of glancing around that was disconcerting. Veronica and I had dated some in high school, and nights making out with her in the back seat of my Ford would always be something I'd remember. "How about you? You married?" I asked, since she'd asked first. "No, almost a couple of times, but no," she said. I smiled like the predator I was. "Want to go out sometime?" I said. "Sure, okay," she said. "I'm free Saturday." "Oh, but that has to be a busy night for you," she said. "No, as a matter of fact, I have my weekends off. I fill in once in a while if one or another of the crew gets sick. But basically, my weekends are free," I said. "Just so you know, I'm on 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. weekdays." "How about you?" I said. "You working?" No, not at this time. I was, but not now. I'm thinking about getting a job, though. Still looking, she said. We talked off and on for 2 hours. We filled in most of the gaps in our lives, and taken together, there were a lot of gaps to fill in. Half a dozen guys hit on her while she was there, but she politely brushed them off. I had the feeling that she was a pro at handling the male element in most situations. The date was made for 7 p.m. Saturday. I would pick her up at her apartment. Well, girlfriend, tell me about this new guy in your life. Is it serious? Said Samantha Hayes. Yes, Samantha, it's serious. I have some misgivings, but it is definitely serious, said Veronica. Misgivings? Yes. One anyway, said Veronica. Luke is only a bartender. He has 2 degrees and he only wants to tend bar. Go figure. I'm concerned that he hasn't any drive or ambition, said Veronica. Veronica, it's not a nothing job. Maybe he likes dealing with people. Is he a heavy drinker or anything? Said Samantha. No, not especially. It's just, I don't know. I just want more for him. For us, said Veronica. Well, I think you're being silly. But if it bothers you, maybe you should look elsewhere for a mate, said Samantha. I mean, you're going to be married for a very long time if you're lucky. Maybe you're right. I do want a man who is up to my standards. Nathan is a good man. He was in the army too, you know. But, well, a bartender just isn't what I envisioned that I would be married to, said Veronica. They talked for some time and then called it a night. The waitress brought the check. Samantha studied her friend for a moment. Veronica, you need to figure out what's important to you. Don't string this guy along. It wouldn't be good for you or him in the long run. Back to Luke. I know, said Veronica. A lot different than when we were in high school, huh? I said. Yes, it certainly is, Luke, said Veronica. We were driving towards Sunset Ridge. It had been our favorite rendezvous when we were in high school together. I pulled into a darkened copse with a view of the valley and all its lights. Dinner at the Grand Oak had been good, the wine excellent, and the conversation fluid, if a bit tentative. I had an uncomfortable feeling that she wanted to tell me something but was nervous about getting it out. But at the moment, only the look and smell of her had any real meaning for me. This was our 4th date. The first had been that Saturday night 3 weeks earlier. A time of reconnecting and getting to know each other again. The next 2 had been filled with long, heartfelt conversations and shared moments of closeness. But tonight, if all went well, was going to be a truly memorable evening. You look very beautiful, I said, leaning back against my door. She was smiling. That was a good omen. She leaned in to kiss me. Let's get in the back, she said. I immediately made a mental note to offer a human sacrifice to the gods of Greece and Rome, thanking them for the gift I was about to receive from their bounty. 1 minute later, or less, we were in the back, embracing tightly. Then we exchanged a few soft kisses, holding each other close. She gently pulled away, looking into my eyes. Luke, I want to talk to you for a moment, she said. Huh? Yeah? I asked, surprised. She giggled. Yes, now. I leaned back against the door, letting out a small sigh. Luke, I think I'm falling in love with you. If that scares you, maybe you should tell me now, she said. Scare me? Taliban bullets didn't scare me. Roller coasters don't faze me. And you? Well, you sure don't scare me, I said with a smile. The truth was, Veronica, I fell in love with you about 5 minutes after seeing you again a month ago. She looked serious now. I was worried. Luke, what do you intend to do to support us if we go the whole route? She said. I could tell from the way she said it that my remaining a bartender was not high on her list of career moves. But here I was, determined to be a man, not a mouse. I've got a good job now, Veronica. I know it's not high class, but it's what I love. And frankly, I'm good at it. Office work and all of the phony bullshit that goes with it is not for me, I said. You have to understand that if we have a chance. I could see she was wrestling with herself. Okay, she said. If it's what you really want and need. She moved to me and kissed me. And soon we were naked. And it felt good. We had wild sex. Hell, that was good, she said as she sagged back down into the seat. We lay beside each other, hugging and making unintelligible noises that were clear to us but would have sounded like whale songs to submariners. After that night, I heard no more about my career choices. We dated 3 and 4 times a week, and after 6 months, I formally proposed. We were married 3 months after that. The ceremony was muted but elegant, our families, a few friends, and a nice reception. I loved her. She loved me. And soon, she was pregnant. 8 months later, the twins arrived, Sophia and Olivia. The girls were our pride and joy. Veronica was a stay-at-home mom until the kids started school. That was 6 years into the marriage. That point in our married life was the demarcation line. It separated our happy, uncomplicated early days from the strife-ridden years to follow. I didn't realize it at the time, but our problems had begun the very night of our girls' first day in junior high. I should have realized it halfway through the semester. I heard Rebecca Moore giving Veronica hell for something. When they saw me, they clammed up. It bothered me, but since I had no idea what was what, I let it go. That first day of school, at any rate, Sophia and Olivia were so excited, telling Mommy and Daddy about all of the things that they did, the new friends that they had made, and their teacher, Mrs. Hathaway. All of it. In bed by 8, the girls were asleep almost before I turned out the lights and headed downstairs. The girls sure are happy, Luke. I like that. It's good that they are so happy about school, she said. I smiled and agreed. You were so right. It's a good start, I said. They're happy, you're happy, I'm happy. But Luke, I want to get a job. You know, one I can do in the daytime while the girls are in school, she said. I looked over at her. You've never said anything about working, honey. Why now? I said. The obvious. The house is going to be awfully quiet during the day, and I don't want to just sit around and be bored, she said. I couldn't think of a good reason to tell her that she shouldn't do it, so I said the only thing I could say. Okay, honey, if it's what you really want to do. But we don't need the money, I said. She hugged me and we made love. And then we slept the sleep of the blessed. The era of good feelings was not destined to last. Veronica eventually settled on a job selling real estate. She had to attend classes for a while in order to get her license, but she was a sharp student. And soon she was making money. Boy, did she ever make money. Inside of a year, she was making double what I was making. That fact and the fact that she never really had taken to my being a bartender began to undermine our relationship. I would discover later that, well, she was less than proud to be my wife. And when I did find out, it hurt. It hurt a lot. And I heard it from Rebecca Moore. It was June and it was getting hot. Summer was always a test for man and beast in the valley. The temperatures could reach 105 routinely during stretches in July, August, and even September, but this year, the heat wave was coming early. I had arrived home a little earlier than usual. I had transferred to day shifts, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. the year before in order to spend more time with my family, especially Veronica and the girls. And I did spend time with my girls. But it seemed that time with my wife had improved only slightly, if at all. Veronica was not happy with my late arrival this night. She was, however, dressed to kill. But not for me. I had a bad feeling. Okay, Luke, why are you so late? I left you a message at your work that I had a dinner meeting tonight with the corporate bosses. She said. That explained the clothes. Sort of. Veronica, I have a job too. I took off earlier than I should have just so I could get here now. We were busy. Sheesh, it's only 6 p.m. It's like you were never late or had to work. Right? I said, firing back at her. And what kind of meeting is it? Anyway, you're dressed completely inappropriately. Are you trying to impress one of those big shots you're always trying to please? I didn't really think she'd be dating anyone, but I knew it was one way to push her buttons. I was a little miffed by her attitude. It had been weeks since she and I had had a serious date, and she never dressed like this for me. Yeah, I was a little pissed. Lucas Evans, you've no business talking to me like that. If it weren't for my job, we wouldn't be living in this 400K house. I need to be able to count on you to be home when you're supposed to be, she said. Anyway, I'm out of here. We'll talk later. Bye. And she was gone. If it weren't for her, like I had nothing to do with our life together, or our hopes, or our dreams. Miffed didn't even begin to cover it. I decided something had to give. The house had cost 400K, and it was paid for with her money. I had kept my old place and rented it out. It was paid for too, but it was just a very small 3-bedroom in a very ordinary subdivision. The new place, hers, at least that was how I was beginning to think of it, was so fancy I was embarrassed to say I lived in it. But she'd insisted we buy it, said it would boost her chances of making partner in her firm. The real estate firm she worked for was the biggest in the state, and Veronica was one of their best sales reps. She'd been having these meetings once or twice every month for the past year. I wasn't thrilled with her being gone so much at night, but she really hadn't given me any choice. She had made it clear that I had no say in what she did on her job. This night, I sent the girls to bed around 9 p.m. They were set to start their summer recess on Friday, 5 days from now. There was to be an academic awards ceremony on Thursday night at Hamilton Plaza, a 5-star hotel in the city. The twins were slated to get one award I knew about, but others were possible. Secrecy was the watchword. No one was to know who was to receive what award. Both Veronica and I had made plans to attend. It was 2 a.m. when she got in. I was sleeping, but I awakened when she accidentally stubbed her toe on the chair near the little antique writing table she had bought some months before. She swore. I turned over and said, "Morning. Late meeting, huh?" "Yes, we socialized after dinner, but I'm tired and my feet are killing me," she said. "All I want to do is go to bed and sleep." Code 4, there would be no sex. Like I would have been in the mood at 2 a.m. The really bad news was that we hadn't had more than a quickie in months, and I had become more than a little disturbed by that reality. Anyway, her all I want to do actually wasn't quite all. She evidently wanted to shower too. She was back in the room and toweling down her hair in the shadowy light from the bathroom in 20 minutes. "Had to get the cigarette smoke smell out of my hair," she said when she noticed I was watching her. I turned over and went to sleep as she slid in beside me. I hoped it was only cigarette smoke she was getting out. Thursday came and I had the girls ready. We were waiting for Veronica to arrive. We were already marginal on time. The phone rang. I picked it up. "Hello? Yes, we're ready." "How long?" "What? Another meeting? Never again call me out for being late for anything." I railed at her. "It's your daughter's big night." Yeah, I'll tell them," I said, slamming the phone down. "Was that Mom?" said Sophia. "Yes, honey. She's sorry, but she has a business meeting tonight. She promised to make it up to you both on the weekend." I lied, saying that she hadn't promised anything. In fact, she was angry with me for challenging her. But hell, I was at the screw you stage too. Things were coming to a head, and there did not appear to be anything I could do about it. I had noticed the number on the caller ID readout on the phone. It was neither her cell nor her office number. I decided to ring her back and ask her to try and make it for the end of the awards if she could. I hit redial. Horizon in. I hung up. Now I was pissed. I was pissed and hurt. I still wasn't sure anything untoward was going on, but I was pretty sure that her big bosses were not holding meetings in motels. I called the motel back one more time. "Yes, how much are your rooms for one night?" I asked. "And do you have any conference rooms?" I couldn't help but smile at the answers I got. $40 a night motel rooms. And no conference rooms. There was no meeting going on. She was screwing somebody else, and shining on her daughter's awards night in order to do it. I needed to get proof. The girls were excited. I was looking around to see who I might know. Rebecca Moore came up to me. "Hi, Luke. The girls are all excited, huh?" she said. "You bet. They're over there talking to their friends," I said. "Veronica busy tonight?" she said. I frowned. "Yeah," said she has a meeting. "The girls are disappointed, but it's like that a lot lately," I said. I was jabbering onto someone I had no business jabbering to. "Luke, you really need to put your foot down with that woman," said Rebecca. "You're letting her do things she shouldn't be doing. Like tonight," she said. I looked at her. I wondered how much she knew. And if she knew anything, would she tell me? I doubted it. But I'd never know if I didn't just flat out ask. "Rebecca, can I ask you something?" I said. The answer was yes before I even finished my question. "Luke, she is," Rebecca said, cutting straight to the point. I felt my stomach drop. "Who?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Her boss. Nathan. And he's an a-hole," she said. "Gus. Luke, if you ever want revenge sex, I'm available. I know a good man when I see one," she added. I looked at her as if she were from outer space. "Huh?" was my brilliant response. "Yeah," she said, grinning. Lame. But it was all I could come up with. Meanwhile, in the motel room, Veronica was already making herself comfortable when Nathan finally mentioned the call. "Had to check in with hubby?" he asked, disdain evident in his tone. "Yes," she admitted. "We had something planned tonight. I didn't want him wondering where I was." "When are you going to leave that bartender and take me seriously?" he asked, clearly punching way out of his league. She looked at him with a sharp gaze. "Hell no, fool. Don't ever think that," she said. Nathan smirked. "But money and status do mean something to you," he noted. "They do to me," she admitted without hesitation. "You know you're playing a dangerous game," he said. She exhaled, staring at the ceiling. "I know," she said softly. "And something has to change." Finished, they were dressing. "How often do you have sex with him?" Nathan asked. "Not often. I let him get off maybe twice a month, but it's always a quickie and then it's over. He never gets the real me anymore. Only you get that, she said. Do you think he suspects anything? No. He's very trusting, she said, frowning as soon as she uttered the words. Yes. He was trusting. But she wasn't trustworthy. She suddenly realized that she couldn't do it to him anymore. She had to divorce him. The thought made her feel a certain sadness. But at the same time free. She determined to make it an easy divorce for him. Her Luke deserved at least that. Her Luke? Well, not for much longer. He'd be someone else's man soon enough. She was sure of that. Rich he wasn't, but he had everything else going for him. Nathan, on the other hand, Nathan was her man now. It was time to give in to his wishes. No more sneaking around, banging each other in cheap, sordid motel rooms. He smiled, appreciative of her devotion to him. He thought about his previous wives. All three of them. None were Veronica's equal. She'd be his sooner or later. And if things worked out the way he planned, it would definitely be sooner. Back to Luke, I heard her car pull in. It was after 11 p.m. Her heels clicked on the wooden stairs. She came in, looked at me, and began taking off her earrings. Hello, honey. How did the girls do? She asked, trying to placate me and anticipating my next remarks. Do you really care? I shot back. Luke, I'm sorry. I just couldn't get out of the meeting. It was too important, she said. I eyed her. She looked at me, stopped fooling with her jewelry, and just looked at me. What? She said. I told you I had to be there. I would have come if I could, she said, almost vehemently. Was Nathan there? I asked, gambling that it was him she was cheating with. She hesitated for half a second too long. Of course, he's my boss, she said. Was anyone else there? What do you mean? She said. I mean, was it just you two? Or was it an orgy? I said, my voice void of emotion. She stopped cold. Her pale look clearly stated that there was no way I could know. You're not funny, she said, still holding to her line of bull. I wasn't trying to be, but I know that the Horizon Inn has no conference rooms. So I'm pretty sure you all 7 of you, wouldn't have been able to fit into one of those cheap little sex-by-the-hour rooms they charge $40 a night for, I said. Her arms dropped to her sides. You know, don't you? It was not a question. I figured it out. So where do we go from here? I said. I was not prepared for her response. I'm relieved, she said. I was going to talk to you tomorrow. You deserve to know, Luke. I want a divorce. I have fallen in love with Nathan. I never meant it to happen, but it has. And I need us to part. I'm sorry. I was stunned. But I kept my cool. You sleep in one of the guest rooms. The girls and I will move out tomorrow, I said. What? The girls? Yes. We talked earlier. They want to stay with me. You can have open visitation, but at least with me, the custodial parent won't be missing any of their functions. Oh, and to answer your earlier question. They both received subject area awards, Sophia tops in English and Olivia in math. Those, in addition to perfect attendance and citizenship. I mean, in case you really do care it. Now get out and let me sleep. She stared at me, went to the closet, retrieved a nightgown and a robe, and retreated out into the hallway. I thought I heard her sob as she exited. But I could have been mistaken. The sun rose at 6 a.m. I was already dressed and downstairs making coffee. It had always been my time of day. I was pouring myself my second cup when she pulled out a chair at the table. Can I have a cup? She said. I poured her one and leaned back against the sink, eyeing her. She stirred in a teaspoon of sugar and looked up at me. Can we at least be civilized about this, Luke? I know you're hurt, and I am the guilty one. I recognize that. But the girls need their mom. I can do more for them, she said. No, you can't. And you haven't. But yes, we can make this a civilized transition, if you do not fight me over the girls. We don't care about your money, and we sure as hell don't give a damn about good old Nathan. I have no problem with the divorce. You haven't been a wife to me for a long time. But you and that Aholi are not coming between me and my girls. Okay. She frowned. I guess we have a fight on our hands then, she said. I will not give up primary custody, Luke. I can't. Your choice, I said coldly. Consider the battle joined. You probably shouldn't be talking to me anymore. She snapped. Nor are you, I shot back. We're quits as of now. It's just a matter of the paperwork being finalized. I headed upstairs. I had made my plans the night before. After she had called and I had discovered the tryst at the Horizon Inn, I figured worst-case scenario, and that's exactly what had played out. That I'd be moving out the next day. Today, I got the girls up and packed some of their things while they were showering and getting dressed. I took their bags and one I had packed for myself and headed back downstairs. Veronica was on the phone. Probably Nathan. But I wasn't sure. I took the suitcases to my car and went back to get the girls. Luke, you can't do this. Please do not make me fight you. You can't win. I'm the mother. She all but screamed. Tell you what, Veronica, asked the girls. Here they come now, I said, looking her straight in the eye. Ask them who they'd like to stay with. I will stand by their decision. I was sure the girls would stay with me. And it showed in my demeanor. What? I can't put them on the spot like that, Luke. Then I'll ask them, Veronica. They're almost 13. They know what's what almost as well as you or I. The girls had reached the bottom of the stairs. They were looking at us nervously. Girls, I began. There's no easy way to say this, but last night your mom told me that she wanted a divorce. I have agreed to it. I really have no choice. She has a boyfriend. Her boss. I was being cruel. But I was hurt and angry and I didn't know what else to say or do. Now, I want to say that this is about us and it has nothing to do with you girls. Your mom and I both love you and neither of us wants to keep the other from seeing you. I don't think. But the problem remains, who would you rather stay with for the immediate future? We've decided that you should be allowed to choose. And, of course, you can change your mind whenever you want. I felt like shit loading this on the girls' shoulders. But a little pain now might avoid a lot more later, or so I rationalized. I had no inkling of what I was about to learn. The girls began to fidget. Sophia was tearing up. They conferred in whispers. Veronica was nervous and clearly worried. I was confident and I must have appeared so. Dad. Sophia spoke first. She glanced at Olivia, who nodded. Dad, we love you so much. You were always there for us. But I guess we are going to stay here for a while. If it's okay with you. We think Mom needs us more, said Olivia. My mind went blank. I had hot flashes. I think I began to sway. I was stunned. The blood was rushing to my head. I felt like I was going to black out. I choked up. I finally managed to find my voice. Okay, I whispered. Daddy loves you. I had to get out of there. I went back out to my car and pulled their suitcases from the back seat. I set them on the porch. And left. Veronica looked at me. She wasn't gloating. If anything, I think she was feeling pity for me. Well, hell, I was pitiful. I swallowed, choking back my tears. I'll come back tomorrow morning after 10 a.m. to get the rest of my things, I said. Please don't be here. Please. I left. At least I had a place to stay. I was in between renters. I had been planning to clean the house up and throw some paint on the walls this weekend. Now I would be doing it for myself instead of new renters. I headed for the Blue Haven. I had to talk to Ethan. I got the day off and made the necessary rounds. I had to get my credit line worked out, separate from hers. I had to change my will, and other things. Ethan recommended his lawyer. I called and made an appointment. The secretary said she could get me in before noon. At noon, I arrived at the office of one Isabel Clark, Esq. A little before 11 a.m., actually. I had to wait for a little while. I was early. At 11:15, I was ushered down a short hall to an office. Being shown in, I walked toward the desk and saw a familiar face. Couldn't place it. But I knew this lady. She stood and extended her hand for me to shake. I thought it might be you, she said. I recognized the unusual name. She smiled. I have long wanted to thank you for saving my life. Huh? Was my brilliant comeback. Ma'am, I'm afraid you have me at a disadvantage, I said. Do I know you? Well, Ranger, you should, she said. Afghanistan. 12 years ago. You fell on me and saved me from that incoming mortar round. The nurse. All of a sudden, it came back to me. Yes. You. You were a nurse then, but now? I was able to afford law school on the GI Bill. So I went. She smiled. Frankly, I can't believe our paths have crossed again. I mean, small world. You think? I said, falling into the chair in front of her desk. I tried to find you. To thank you. After they rushed you the hell out of there. But you were long gone to Ramstein and then the States. I never knew where, she said. Well, how have you been? She asked. Humph. I managed. Until last night? Okay. Oh yes, I understand. I got a call from Ethan. He said you had a problem with your wife. Yeah, you could say that. She's been cucking me with her boss. And last night, She laid it on me that she wanted a divorce. So yeah, I have a problem with my wife, I said. She nodded. I see. No chance for a reconciliation? No. Children. Twin girls. Age 12. Almost 13. They said they wanted to stay with their mom. She blinked. That one stopped me, I admitted. I'm the one that is always there for them. At the games, events, happenings. Their mother never is. But when we asked them, they opted for her. I tell you, that one hurt a lot. She stared at me for the longest time, her lawyer's mind working through the facts. It happens, she said finally. If I had to guess, they did it to try and get their mom to start coming to their events. They probably figured that you would always be there. But if they stayed with you, they were afraid she'd withdraw even further from them. I sat back in my chair, processing her words. I am pretty sure their choice had nothing to do with you, she added. It made sense. For the first time in the last 24 hours, I actually had something to hold on to. Thanks, I said. I hope you're right. I know I'm right, she said, smiling. Luke, I've seen this kind of thing 100 times. You're the consistent one. The safe one. Veronica is the unknown. The unreliable factor. The girls are probably just trying to stabilize their world the only way they know how. We talked for some 45 minutes longer. The upshot was that she would defend my interests and make sure that I got the best possible visitation rights with my children. There would be no money demands, although she said I could get alimony if I decided I wanted to go for it. I told her hell no to that one. I made enough. But she wanted Veronica to do the filing. That way Veronica would be up against it for court costs and my lawyer costs too if things played out the way Isabel expected. We were standing, shaking hands again as I prepared to leave. Luke, I owe you a dinner at the very least. How about it? She asked. I was surprised, but pleasantly so. She was a very nice-looking lady. Okay, I said, kind of weakly. Good. Meet me tomorrow at the Cloister at 7 p.m. Okay? Sure, I said. She picked up a card from the tray on her desk and wrote on the back of it. Here's my cell, in case. See you tomorrow. A new start? I knew I was early. Well, I was anxious. I didn't see her come in. I guess she saw me sitting at the bar. She came up on my blind side. Howdy, Ranger, I heard from behind my shoulder. Huh? I turned, nearly jumping out of my skin. She laughed at my obvious surprise. Damn, Isabel, I almost had a heart attack. Oh, and I am definitely not a sailor. Try airborne, Ranger. Whole different kettle of fish. Wow, I guess I need to brush up on my proper protocol, don't I? She said, grinning. I laughed. Damn straight. The game was afoot. We talked for some minutes before the food arrived. Isabel was nothing if not quick-witted and very intelligent. A whole lot smarter than me, I figured, by the time the food arrived. I finally took a good look at her. I hadn't really noticed before, and I was surprised at myself. She had a natural charm, kind of like the comforting presence of a nurse. Her build was fuller in the hips, and her tawny, curly hair framed her shoulders nicely. But what stood out the most was her scent. It was captivating, almost overwhelming, reminding me of Veronica in a way. I tried my best to ignore it. Dancing in the dark dinner was over. The band began playing softly, and a few couples got up to dance. I offered her my hand, and she accepted it tentatively. I'm not that bad, really, I said. Oh no, it's me, she said. I am that bad. Wow, such candor and honesty. Well, let's dance anyway and humiliate ourselves as much as we can. At first, I damn near couldn't dance. I was laughing so hard. For the next few hours, we danced, talked, laughed, drank, and generally avoided mentioning my impending divorce and my concern over the custody of my girls. At 11 p.m., I was beginning to think that it was time for a gentleman to take a lady home. The evening had turned from tentative to fun to romantic. Her body had been melding with mine on the dance floor since after the first few songs. I hadn't, at first, thought too much about Isabel that way. Though, I am a man. And she was more than just an average woman. But now? Now, I was thinking about her that way. I just wasn't sure if I wanted to get involved. Not yet. Considering my less than thrilling experience with womankind and intimacy recently. I just smiled. Her expression turned serious. Luke, when are you planning to see your daughters next? She said. The weight of fatherhood, huh? Maybe next week. They have a summer softball league. Their game's on Saturday. Not before that? She asked. I shrugged. I don't know. I don't know if Veronica will let them see me. We haven't spoken since I left last week. It was not exactly an amicable leave-taking, as you know. The girls opted to stay with her. I don't know what they were thinking. I mean, I know what you said, and it makes sense, but I don't know for sure yet. Well, I'm your lawyer, and I will be on the visitation issue first thing Monday. I know you and your wife are not doing too good, but I would be surprised if she tried to interfere with you seeing the girls, said Isabel. Yeah, I suppose you're right. Isabel, I have decided to play hardball with her about custody. And it's not even a matter of them preferring Veronica to me. I just can't abide that man, Nathan, being around my girls. If he is, I will be cutting myself off from them. I just couldn't stand him being there. You know, taking my place. Luke, you can't mean that. Those girls love you. I know it. You have got to let me handle things, okay? She said. And that man will never be able to take your place, no matter what happens between you and your wife. I don't know, Isabel. Okay, I guess I don't know. I just think about that slimy, adulterous filth bag being around them, and I couldn't talk anymore. She wrapped her arms around me and kissed me on the lips. A new future, it felt so right. It was stupid, but I felt as though the tables had turned. Once, long ago, I had taken shrapnel for her to protect her. Now she was protecting me. At least it felt that way, and I knew I needed protecting. The days ahead were not going to be easy for me. The game begins the following Saturday. I was at the ballpark at 10:15 a.m. The game was to start at 11. I saw the girls arrive with Veronica and Nathan. I wanted to vomit or kill him. Not necessarily in that order. I saw them before they saw me. Veronica, the girls, and Nathan. My gut twisted into a knot. I gritted my teeth, trying to calm the rage that threatened to boil over. I had no right to make a scene here. Not in front of Sophia and Olivia. I clenched my fists and forced myself to breathe. I had to hold it together. For them. Veronica saw me. She waved. I just stared at her, my face stone cold. She was the enemy. And he was the devil. I was scaring myself. The girls ran up to me. Hi, Dad. Hi, Dad. They said in unison. They kissed my cheek and ran back to the dugout. I watched them go, my heart aching. They still loved me. At least, I hope they did. I sat in the bleachers, my eyes flicking back to Veronica and Nathan. She was smiling at me. Why? Was it pity? Was it guilt? Or was she just trying to convince herself that she wasn't the villain in all of this? I didn't know. And honestly, I didn't care. Then I noticed her. Rebecca Moore. She had joined them, sitting right next to Nathan. Why? Was she spying? Or was she just here to watch the game? I didn't know, but I intended to find out. The game ends, but the real one begins. The girls' team won. They were cheering, jumping up and down, celebrating. They ran to their families. I stood up, waiting for them, but they ran past me, straight to Veronica and Nathan. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. I just stood there, watching, feeling like a ghost. A voice interrupted my misery. Mr. Evans, are you okay? I turned. One of the other mothers was looking at me, concern in her eyes. I forced a smile. Yeah, I'm fine, I said. Lie. A big fat lie. I watched as Nathan put his hand on Olivia's shoulder. I saw Sophia look up at him and laugh. I had to sit down. I felt like I was going to throw up. Or cry. Or both. The final nail in the coffin. I was served with the divorce papers the following week. The negotiations were swift, businesslike, and for me, painful. Isabel did everything she could, but I still felt like I was losing. I got one weekend a month with the girls. Summers. She got them the rest of the time. The big holidays, we alternated, starting with the 4th of July. Custody was split, but my heart, it was shattered. The first game without me, I went to their next game the following Saturday. This time, Isabel went with me. She knew how much the first game had wrecked me. She was there to hold my hand, figuratively speaking. The girls saw me. They ran up. This time, they actually talked to me, gave me a kiss, said they were looking forward to coming to my house in 2 weeks. Then, they ran back to Veronica and Nathan. I watched them go. But this time, something was different. Veronica was watching me. Her eyes carried a message. I just didn't know what it was. The breaking point the next Saturday came. And I didn't go to the game. I couldn't do it. Not again. Not with Nathan standing there, smiling at me like he'd won. That evening, I got a call. From Veronica. You missed the game, she said. You've missed plenty of them, I shot back. Luke, don't do this, she said. Do what? I snapped. We're going to be thrown together when the girls have events. They were worried when you didn't show today. You've never missed. Sophia cried. Olivia was a nervous wreck. You can't not be there, Luke. They need you. I took a deep breath. It was getting hard to breathe. It's too hard for me when that Aholy is there, laughing at me. I just can't do it, I admitted. And I hated myself for saying it, because it made me sound weak, like a teenager who'd been dumped. And I knew it. Nathan wasn't laughing at you, Luke. He's just as concerned as I am. I snapped. You just can't stop lying to me? Can you, Veronica? I had to get the last dig in. I was hurting too bad. He has nothing to do with you and the girls, Luke. He's just, I don't know, there, she said. Yeah. Laughing at me. My bitterness was showing through. Who cares what he does, Luke? Okay, so he acted stupid last time. I'll see to it that he stops. Okay. Veronica, you can't be that naive. Goodbye. I hung up. The first weekend with my girls, the following weekend. I picked the girls up on Friday night. We went out for pizza. Saturday, we went to the game. Their mother and Nathan were there, but they hardly ever looked my way. I guess Nathan had gotten an earful. Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. Sunday, we stayed home. The girls and I baked cookies, talked, swam in the pool. Felt normal. Good. Like old times. Like I was still their dad. Because I was. And nothing, not even Nathan, was going to change that. A shift in the game the next weekend. I came to the game. But only just before it ended. And I noticed something. Nathan wasn't there. Interesting. Veronica saw me. She smiled. But it was a questioning smile. Almost like she was asking, what changed? The girls ran up to me. Daddy, you were late today, Sophia said. Yeah, sorry about last week, girls. Where's your mother's boss? I asked. I was hoping they'd tell me he'd been hit by a bus. He's home, they said. So he was living with her. I knew it. I supposed I knew it all along. But it hurt to finally be sure. I let it go. I didn't react. But the fact that Nathan was home meant that he was living there. I had known it was coming. I had seen the signs. But hearing it? That was different. It was final. Unavoidable. And it hurt. The girls ran back to their mother. Veronica was standing at the other end of the bleachers. Waiting. Watching. She looked concerned. For me? For her? For Nathan? I didn't care. I wasn't in the mood to talk. Not to her. Not today. Maybe not ever. I turned and walked away. The following week every day I felt worse. Like something inside me was rotting. I had no enthusiasm. No drive. Even work at the Blue Haven felt empty. I couldn't focus. I hadn't decided whether to go to the girls' next game. I knew it was stupid, the way I was acting. But I was powerless to stop it. In the end, I went. I entered the field through the side gate like I always did. Had to walk under the bleachers for a few yards to get inside. It was a shortcut. And as I turned the corner, a hand grabbed my arm from behind. I turned fast. Too fast. And saw her. Veronica. Standing alone. Waiting for me. Veronica's plea, what the hell are you doing here? I snapped. I needed to talk to you. And I knew you wouldn't up there, she said, nodding toward the stands. And I wanted to talk to you without Nathan seeing us. Oh, a falling out already? I sneered. She sighed. Cut the crap, Luke. You and I are getting a divorce and that's that. But there is no reason for you to divorce the girls. You're being childish. I felt my rage spike. Oh, and what are you being? I snapped. Shacking up with a man you aren't even married to? She clenched her jaw. We're going to get married, she countered. It still hurt to hear it. Even after everything. Oh? And when will that be? I shot back. After the divorce is final, of course, she said. I laughed. Cold. Mocking. And in the meantime? You'll just shack up with him like some teenager sneaking around? That's none of your business, Luke. It is if it concerns my daughters. Her eyes flashed. Keep the Aholy away from their events, I said. And I'll have no problem coming. But with him here, it's real tempting to tear his filthy ass apart. I was venting. I knew it. I was being childish. But I didn't care. Not anymore. She exhaled sharply. Why are you being this way? Because you hurt me, Veronica. Real bad. Cheating with that Aholi. I will never forgive you. Not in this lifetime. And not in the next. Her eyes softened. But I wasn't done. Getting along? I scoffed. That's not happening. Not for a long, long time. If ever. She swallowed hard. Forced toleration? Maybe. But getting along? That's too close to friendship. And you and I? We ain't friends, Veronica. I stalked off before she could reply. For the first time in weeks, I felt real good. I had said my piece. I had made it clear. I wasn't some pathetic ex-husband who'd just roll over. She had chosen her path. And I had chosen mine. And our paths would never cross again. Except where the girls were concerned. A silent warning. The game went well. I watched the girls play their hearts out. I glanced toward my enemies from time to time. Veronica's expression? Frustration. Or maybe concern. It was hard to tell. But Nathan? He never looked in my direction. Not once. Interesting. I wondered about that. I couldn't see him knuckling under to Veronica like that. So I wondered. What was his motivation? Back to work, back to life. I was working overtime at the Blue Haven on Tuesday night when she walked in. Isabel. And I mean, she made an entrance. A short black dress. Flawless makeup. A scent that made my stomach tighten. And 5-inch heels that gave her an air of confidence and elegance. Howdy, Ranger, she said, sliding onto the bar stool. Howdy, back at you. I replied. You look fantastic. Yeah, well, I've got a date. Her tone was serious. My stomach sank. Oh, I said, furrowing my brow. Yeah, she said, smirking. He's a little slow on the uptake. But I'm pretty sure he'll come around. I blinked. Gus. Okay, I said, shaking my head. So I'm slow on the uptake. Give me 20 minutes. Want something while I get ready? Wine would be nice. Anything. I poured her a glass. Then turned to Hank, my coworker. Cover for me. Hank grinned. Sure. But you gotta get me a date with her sister. I laughed. I'll ask her. A new beginning. The Cloister had become our favorite place. By the time I got there, it was midnight. The place was still rocking. We got a table. Ordered drinks. Danced. Talked. Laughed. And for the first time in a long time, I felt happy. At 1 a.m., we found ourselves parked at the Ridge. The city lights twinkled below. She leaned her head on my shoulder. I stroked her hair. I lifted her chin, leant forward, and kissed her. It was slow, unrushed, real. We crawled into the back seat. I traced slow, absent-minded circles on her knee. Let my hand move higher. She smiled. Her hands moved toward me, a moment charged with anticipation. We leaned into each other, and for the first time in years, I felt alive again. The next morning, I woke up feeling different. For the first time in a long time, I didn't wake up feeling like I'd lost everything. Instead, I woke up feeling like I had something to look forward to. Isabel. The future. Something new. Something better. The custody battle heats up. By Monday morning. Isabel was already on the warpath. I sat in her office as she laid it all out. Luke, I'm not letting you lose your daughters. Not to Veronica. And definitely not to Nathan. I nodded. You think we can change the custody arrangement? She smiled. I know we can. The bombshell. That same afternoon, Isabel made a discovery. One that changed everything. Luke, she said, handing me a file. I opened it. My blood ran cold. Bank statements. Deposits. A lot of money. All from Nathan. Going into Veronica's account. What the hell is this? I asked. She leaned back. Nathan's been paying her. For what? She gave me a look. You already know the answer. I clenched my fists. This wasn't just an affair, Luke. It was a transaction. The final play. We went to court. Veronica didn't know what was coming. She walked in smiling, thinking this was just a routine custody agreement update. She didn't realize I had evidence, that we were about to change everything. The judge listened carefully. Isabel laid it all out. The money transfers, the neglect, the way Veronica had prioritized her affair over the girls. Veronica tried to fight it, but when the evidence came out, she had no defense. The judge looked at her, then at me. Then he made his ruling. Full custody is awarded to Mr. Evans. The mother will have limited visitation. The aftermath. Veronica was devastated. She looked at me, tears in her eyes. Luke, I never meant for this to happen. I shook my head. You chose this, Veronica. You did this. She opened her mouth, but no words came out, because she knew I was right. Moving on that night, I picked up the girls. They were quiet at first, but when we got home, Sophia finally spoke. Dad, are we staying here? I nodded. For good? Olivia whispered. Yeah, sweetheart. For good. They both ran into my arms. I held them tight, because no matter what happened in the past, they were mine now. And nothing, not Veronica, not Nathan, not anyone, was ever going to change that again. The future. A few months later, I married Isabel. She wasn't just my lawyer anymore. She was my best friend, my partner, and the woman who saved me from myself. Veronica, she tried to fix things. She begged the girls to come back. But the damage was done. She lost everything. And Nathan? He left her once the money stopped coming in. No surprise there. As for me, I finally won. Not just the custody battle, but my life back. And for the first time in years, I was happy again. Truly happy. Thanks for watching. What would you have done in Luke's place? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe.